Winning Blueprint presents
In the Lab Room.
Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. It's Wednesday. We're here in the lab room. Lot to get to. I've allowed a lot of this information to accumulate over the last couple of days, almost a week or so here. And so there's a lot to get to. A lot of things have occurred and transpired in the National Football League. So I want to knock the most pertinent ones down one by one. I've been really occupied with the NFL draft wrap-up series. And so haven't been coming to you as often as I would like to with this In the Lab Room program. But nonetheless, it's all good. I'm here. You're here. Let's get down to business, shall we? So let's start with the first bit of news. And it's unfortunate. Very much so. Affectionately termed and dubbed RoLo, Rolando McClain decided to hang him up at the age of 23 today. He informed the Baltimore Ravens that, hey, look, I appreciate the opportunity from you guys. I just simply don't want to play anymore. And it's gotten to the point now where all the off-the-field issues and all the things off the field are starting to become bigger than the on-the-field presence of Rolando McClain. And he made it easy on the Ravens because they were going to have a hard decision on their hands. Do we give this young man an opportunity to show us that he can not only perform on the field but keep his nose clean off of it? Or do we just cut our losses with him and move forward? And instead of having to make that decision, the Ravens simply just sat back and allowed Rolando McClain to dictate what would happen next. And he ultimately decided that juggling the life of being an upstanding citizen and playing in the National Football League and staying true to yourself and to your roots and hanging around with the fellas back in the neighborhood, maybe a crowd that you shouldn't be surrounding yourself with once you become a person in the National Football League making X amount of dollars. You have to learn how to separate and compartmentalize your life. And I don't think Rolando McClain did a very good job of doing that. And at this point, I don't think football was fun for him anymore. The pressure and the burden of having to stay out of trouble, just the little things. I mean, this guy was getting in trouble for the simplest of things, and I don't think he wants his life under a microscope any longer. And whether he's playing football or not, I don't know if he realizes this or not, but whether he's playing or not, if he gets in trouble, it won't be a huge story, but it'll be on the corner of the Baltimore Sun. It'll be in the corner of the LA Times. It'll be in the corner of the Bottom Line. He'll get a little corner that says, hey, Rolando McClain was arrested today in Mississippi, in Alabama for X transgression. And so it doesn't matter that you're not playing anymore. Your life will still be under a microscope. It just won't be as big of a microscope. But nonetheless, Rolando McClain simply couldn't handle the pressure of disassociating himself away from his past life and associating himself with a good, clean representation of what an NFL player should be. And so it's unfortunate, but at the age of 23, Rolando McClain decides to hang up his cleats. And so he's done in the National Football League. Another wasted pick by the Oakland Raiders, and a guy that just simply did not pan out in the National Football League. And it's a shame because I think this guy actually had talent, but it's nor here nor there. Rolando McClain now officially or unofficially has not filed his papers with the league yet, but officially, unofficially retired from the National Football League. Let's stay in the AFC West. Rolando McClain being an ex-Oakland Raider. Let's stay in the AFC West. Bad news, more bad news coming out of the AFC West, this time in the form of the San Diego Chargers and their first-round selection from a year ago, Melvin Ingram. Reports out of San Diego Chargers minicamp is that Melvin Ingram suffered a torn ACL ligament. And if that, in fact, is the case, and it sounds like it's all but a foregone conclusion at this point, if it is true, what a devastating and debilitating blow to the San Diego Chargers and to Melvin Ingram. I mean, here's a guy that bought his time last year, did not really see the field as much as you would have liked him to. He was behind veterans, and so with a guy like Takeo Spikes, who doesn't play the same position as Melvin Ingram, but just another linebacker out of the way, a guy like Sean Phillips, who does play the same position as Melvin Ingram, now out of the way. The space had been cleared for Melvin Ingram to get on the field and show what he could do. And this is so unfortunate because we're not even in pads. We're not even really given any physical contact. And yet he tore his ACL. And again, it doesn't take physical contact to tear your ACL. And so it's just a very unfortunate situation for the Chargers and for Melvin Ingram. And so I speak on behalf of all 32 teams around the league, at least the other 31 who haven't had a catastrophic injury hit them quite yet. I put up the all-encompassing keep away sign for everyone else around the league. No one else wants to see any of these type of injuries, especially this early before training camp even gets underway. We're still in May, and we're talking about the ACL injuries. Keep it away, keep it away, keep it away. I put it up for all 32 teams around the league. That's a very unfortunate situation for the Chargers and Melvin Ingram. I hate to see those kind of things happen to anyone, especially a young guy like Ingram, who was finally going to get a chance to show what he could do, because I thought that his rookie season was very disappointing in many different respects. Not a lot of playing time, not a lot of production in the limited playing time that he got. So I was looking forward to seeing what he could do. Now we're going to have to wait another year to see what Melvin Ingram can bring to the National Football League and to the San Diego Chargers at the outside linebacker position. So while we're still in the AFC West, let's handle some more news. With an injury to Melvin Ingram comes an opportunity for someone else to land a job. And so the Chargers did not hesitate to pick up the phone and call a guy that they feel like can come in and get pressure on the quarterback off the edges in Dwight Freeney. Now, how much sense does this make, you ask? And to me, it's a very pertinent question, because I feel like Dwight Freeney is not a viable candidate to fill in a 3-4 defense. It's the reason why he left Indianapolis, and they did not want him back. He was not that effective in a 3-4 defense. Now, again, in the National Football League, teams play multiple defenses. So you'll see some 4-3, you'll see some 3-4, you'll see some 4-6, you'll see some nickel, some dime. So you'll see all kinds of different looks and coverages and packages and sub-packages. And so there'll be times where Freeney can be an asset on the football field, but I don't know if this signing would make a lot of sense for the Chargers or not. Either way, Dwight Freeney has an opportunity now. Again, anytime there's an injury, there's always going to be opportunity for someone else to land a gig. And this might be Dwight Freeney's opportunity to slide into the San Diego Chargers lineup and have some significant playing time coming his way. So we'll see how that shakes itself out. While we're in the AFC West, again, a lot of news coming out of that division. Charles Woodson, who was recently on NFL Total Access, speaking about his situation and how he still can't believe he does not have a job currently in the National Football League. And I feel like he'll have one eventually. He just has to wait out the process. And just like Melvin Ingram going down, there'll be more injuries to come. There'll be opportunities that present themselves, and he'll be there waiting in the wings, ready to pick up the phone at some team's beck and call and be ready to spring into action. But he was on Total Access, and he talked about looking for work and not really understanding how he hasn't gotten a job yet. And I told him to stop begging, and he was still begging, trying to get onto that 49ers roster. But looks like he got a phone call from the Denver Broncos, and he was flying out to meet with the Broncos. Now, that seems like a logical fit for me. The Broncos always seem to be a team willing to give an aging veteran a chance to wrap up their career at the safety position. If you remember, John Lynch did it. So did Brian Dawkins. It'd make a lot of sense if Charles Woodson decided to do that as well out in Denver. They could use a veteran presence alongside one of those younger guys, Raheem Moore, or whoever you want to put at the safety position. I think Raheem Moore is fine, even though he had that terrible meltdown at the end of the AFC divisional round playoff game where he allowed the Ravens to essentially win that game with a 70-yard bomb. I can't even explain how he managed to blow that one, but they could use a veteran in that secondary. Champ Bailey is there. We know that's probably more than enough of a veteran presence right there, but I don't see why he couldn't fit in Denver. And so we'll see if Charles Woodson lands in Denver and finds himself some work with the Denver Broncos. It'd be interesting to see if, in fact, they were able to work out some type of agreement. How would he fit into what the Broncos want to do on the defensive side of the football? So you also look, and I want to switch divisions and conferences and all of that good stuff. Let's go to the NFC East, where the Philadelphia Eagles have signed Felix Jones, the running back, the ex-Cowboys running back, to a one-year deal. Terms of the deal have not been disclosed, but look, Felix Jones took a world tour around the league, and I thought he would find a better landing destination. I feel like the Eagles have more than enough backs, and they all do the same thing. I thought that a great place for him to fit in would have been somewhere like maybe Cincinnati. That was before they got Giovanni Bernard. I don't think that they need a guy like Felix Jones in Cincinnati now, but before they made that selection, I thought he'd be a nice complement to a guy like BenJarvus Green-Ellis. BenJarvus Green-Ellis more of a power back, a guy in between the tackles. Felix Jones be that guy that'll go outside and give you a little flash of speed, but his inconsistency and inability to stay healthy, I think, has affected his stock around the league because he's a relatively young man, and it shouldn't be hard for him to find work, but when you can't stay healthy, you can't produce on the field, hard for you to find work. He finds work with the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's a crowded backfield already. They already have McCoy. They have Brown. I believe they have one more back in that backfield as well. And so I think it's going to be tough for him to get carries in that backfield. We'll see how the Eagles work that out. It's a new regime, and so you never know. Felix Jones might come in and get some carries for the Philadelphia Eagles. You always can use backs in this league, though. Never know when your primary back or your backup goes down and you need that next guy to step in. So Felix Jones, now a Philadelphia Eagle on a one-year contract. You look at the New York Giants while we're in the NFC East, and the Victor Cruz saga continues. The Giants have about a month or so before they have a big decision to make. And this could really turn this contract negotiation phase really ugly because it's about Victor Cruz's tender, which he has not signed yet. And if he does not sign it before X said date, and I don't know the exact time frame we're dealing with, it could be in June, it could be in July. I think it's more sooner than July. I think it's sometime in June. Either way, if Cruz does not sign his tender right now, which is around $2.58 million or something like that, somewhere in that general vicinity, I could be off by a few $1,000s or so, but whatever the case may be, if he doesn't sign his tender, I think it's about $2.85 million right now, it could be brought down by the Giants to about 1.7 something. Let's just call it 1.75. I don't know the exact numbers, but we're talking about close to or over $1 million worth of money that the Giants could recoup if, in fact, they decide to lower the tender offer to Victor Cruz. And if they do that, I can't speak for Victor Cruz. I don't know how you guys feel out there. If I'm a player and I'm looking and I'm seeking a long-term deal and the tender that you currently have on the table that I haven't signed, if you lower that, how is that going to help our contract negotiations that we're currently having? And you got to look at it from the Giants standpoint. Look, we want all the money that we can get out of this situation. If we can use that $1 million to sign another football player onto our roster, you got to look at it from their perspective, but you also got to look at it from Victor Cruz's perspective. Look, I'm playing for peanuts right now. I've been playing on this rookie deal, and I've overperformed, and I've outperformed my contract over the last 2 seasons. I'm going into the last year of my deal, and I really want to be compensated, if at all possible. And I think that $2.85 million, which will be the most I've made in my career to this point, isn't enough for me to feel comfortable playing under. Now, I'd like to get this long-term deal done, But even if we're not able to work it out and I have to sign this tender, I'd like it to stay where it is. I don't want you to lower that to a $1.75 million deal. And so if you're Cruz, that would really make me feel alienated. That would really make me feel a certain type of way if you were to try and lowball me further than I feel like I've already been lowballed by you not giving me a contract that I feel is worthy of my performance up to this point. And so if you're the Giants, it's a TD. It's a tough decision because you got to figure out how to make this thing happen. Do I allow it to just stay where it is like the Pittsburgh Steelers did last year with Mike Wallace when they had a chance to kind of lowball him? They did not. They left the tender right where it was. And so it didn't turn as ugly as it could have. But we've seen it in the past where teams had the opportunity to and did, in fact, lower that tender. And so we'll see what the Giants opt to do. They still got a little bit of time to work something out with Cruz. I don't see it happening because the number that Cruz wants is here. The number that the Giants want to pay him is around here. And it doesn't seem like Cruz is really trying to meet in that middle ground area because he feels like, hey, I want to see what I can get from the Giants, but if I can't get it, I'll sign the tender. I'll play for this 1 year. And then next year, if I have another breakout year, another solid year in 2013, someone will pay me either what I'm looking for or really close to it. And so they'll force the hand of the Giants either way. We'll see how this whole scenario goes because if you are the Giants and you don't get a long-term deal done with Victor Cruz, both he and Hakeem Nicks are going to be up at the same time, and you can't afford to lose both of those guys. And so, tricky situation for the New York Giants, if I may say so myself, concerning themselves with Victor Cruz. And quick off the waiver wire before we get out of here, a couple of things fresh off of the NFL waiver wire. David Garrard going to announce his retirement here shortly from the NFL. He was a member of the Jets a season ago. His knee just will not allow him to play. He's tired of trying to come back from knee injury after knee injury, setback after setback, and so he's going to call it quits from the National Football League. So that's one less quarterback that Mark Sanchez has to battle for that quarterback position in New York with. Really, it's a two-man race. I didn't think Garrard was really in the picture here anyhow. I really think that this race is between Sanchez and the newly drafted rookie Geno Smith. And so Garrard had his chance last year. He blew it when he got injured in Miami. I didn't think that David Garrard was going to get a shot in New York to actually be the starter anyhow. So David Garrard going to be done in the National Football League due to his persistent knee issues. He's going to hang his cleats up as well. So a lot of players calling it quits. It seems like in this episode, we've had two players call it quits. Last time I talked to you, we had two players call it quits in Gerald Sensabaugh and Rondé Barber. So players starting to realize that this probably isn't for me anymore. You also look at a player being released, Kyle Love, defensive tackle for the New England Patriots. And this reminds you of just how harsh the National Football League is. He was diagnosed with diabetes, and the Patriots said, wow, we're going to cut you. And that's just the nature of the beast in the National Football League. There is no sympathies. They don't care. He's got diabetes, and all they're thinking about is, hey, this guy can't help us. Let's get rid of him. In other sports, at least you'd still be guaranteed your money. In the NFL, he's guaranteed nothing. And so how unfortunate is it? Hopefully Kyle Love will be able to beat the diabetes. Forget about football. We're talking about a man and being diagnosed with diabetes. Let's hope that he can beat this diabetes rap and get himself healthy enough to where maybe he can latch on with another NFL team, or he can just live his life where he can just have a great quality of life despite having diabetes. So I wish nothing but the best for Kyle Love. If he were to never play in the National Football League again, I hope that every endeavor that he takes part in is a successful one, and I hope that he is able to overcome this diabetes diagnosis. And last but not least, fresh off of the waiver wire, Joshua Cribbs has found a new home after taking a world tour around the National Football League, going from city to city, team to team. He's finally agreed to terms with the Oakland Raiders. Great signing for the Raiders. They needed a guy like Joshua Cribbs. They need a veteran presence. He gives them added value in the returns game. They could use a guy out there because it's like the blind leading the blind in Oakland right now. A lot of young guys. You can't really have all of these young players in your locker room and no veterans to kind of steer them in the right direction. Cribbs will come in that locker room and be immediately a captain and a veteran leader in that locker room. And so, great pickup by the Oakland Raiders getting Joshua Cribbs. They had extended him the offer a week ago. He went around to feel out where the other teams might have been in his sweepstakes. Realized, I think the Raiders want me the most out of any one of these teams. He finally realized that's probably where I need to be. Joshua Cribbs, now an Oakland Raider. So that's a touchdown. Go ahead and throw it up. I'm going to tack on this quick extra point. DeAngelo Williams has agreed to restructure his deal to remain in Carolina, and I think that's a great move for both parties involved. Maybe not so much for DeAngelo having to restructure his deal, but I think they need him in Carolina, and I don't think that they understand the magnitude of the impact that this guy really has on their offense. I thought that last year when he was inserted into the lineup and given an opportunity to really run around and make things happen, that's in fact what he did. I mean, you look at the last half of the season and through the course of that 4-game winning streak that the Panthers finished the season up on, he was an integral part of what they did. He was an instrumental piece in them getting that 4-game winning streak. You look at some of the touchdowns that he had at the end. You look at that Saints game where he rushed for over 200 yards in that regular season finale against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans, mind you. The game he had at home against the Falcons when the Panthers were able to upset the Atlanta Falcons toward the end of the season, where he caught the screen pass and ran for a long touchdown reception. And so he was able to do some things, caught another screen against the Chargers and went for a touchdown, ran another touchdown against the Chargers. He was all over the football field doing a lot of big things and was really huge in that 4-game winning streak for the Panthers. And it's something that I think that they need to address, because I think he is the better of the two backs. For some reason, the Panthers feel like Jonathan Stewart is an equal. He is not an equal to DeAngelo Williams. DeAngelo Williams is the superior back in that backfield and needs to be treated as such. He needs to be given the football more. I feel like when he's given the football 230 times, you're getting 1,200 yards rushing from this guy versus giving the football to Jonathan Stewart, 230 times and getting 1,000 yards out of the deal. So DeAngelo Williams, you throw it to him, you hand it to him. Whatever the capacity is, he performs and produces for you. And I think the Panthers need to find a way to get him the football more. So it's good to see him back in Carolina because I think he's a huge part of what they want to do moving forward. Don't know what the terms of the restructured deal is going to be, but hopefully it's beneficial for DeAngelo Williams down the road. Maybe he can get out of this contract. Maybe he can still recoup some of the money in bonuses down the road. Hopefully it's something that doesn't just go straight into his pocket and pull money out. Maybe it's a way where it's incentive-laden or something like that where he can still earn a lot of money in this deal. But either way, that's going to do it for this program. I thank you for joining me here today in the lab room on this Wednesday afternoon, as there were many things to cover in the National Football League. I feel like we knocked down a lot of the topics. Not going to talk about Titus Young. He's no longer in the National Football League. I've went down that road too many times. I am done. I've washed my hands with Titus Young. I am done with him. And so there's many ways to contact or view the show. Of course, there's Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Like me on Facebook. There's Twitter. @In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle. Please follow me on Twitter. There's also the YouTube page. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the page. The YouTube page is Louie T, LOUIETEE is the page. Subscribe to the page. Also, there's the inbox. If you want to hit me up directly, just go straight to the inbox. In the Lab Room @gmail.com is the inbox. If you want to bypass all the middleman aspects and all those social media websites that I just gave you, come straight to the inbox in the lab room at gmail.com. Once again, is the inbox. Feel free to shoot me a message via my inbox. Also, please keep your eyes peeled for the NFL Draft Wrap-Up series that I've been doing. Right now, I'm currently on the Miami Dolphins, and the Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs will be released today, and then we'll continue down. For those of you who don't know, I'm going in reverse alphabetical order. I've been getting a lot of messages asking me, when is this team coming up, when is that team coming up. Just so you know, I'm going in reverse alphabetical order. So if you want to know, just look at all the teams in reverse order. So start with the Redskins at the back, work your way up. So Redskins, Titans, 49ers, Seahawks, etc., go all the way up. So right now I'm on the Dolphins. I'll be releasing them and the Chiefs. After the Chiefs, it'll be the Jacksonville Jaguars, and so forth and so forth. So wherever your team fits in that equation, just know I'm going to get around to your football team soon enough. But that's going to do it for this program. I thank you for joining me. As always, take care of yourself. And if it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Take care.